Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
That affects the entire environment, which includes air, water, soil, ecosystem, and human settlements. These are the harmful human activities that affects biophysical environment. Uh, when we are discussing environmental issues in relation to the infrastructure development, it is important to notice that why are environmental issues important. Uh, One of the important point to notice here is it has the negative impact on biodiversity, transport infrastructure, energy projects, and other development that makes life of the people easy. It also really have the negative impact on the available biodiversity of that region. At the same time, the environmental issues are important because it has the global impacts. It is complex and often interrelated with other socio-economic factors, fragment ecosystems, and severely affects natural adaptation. And it has the long-term effects. Environmental issues are too costly to comply with changed environment. And finally, the deep consequences for the human safety, health, and productivity. So some of the common environmental issues are the ecology, devastation of natural habitats of flora and fauna, water resources, risk for floods, depletion of water resources, land, deforestation and land pollution, global warming, emission of greenhouse gases, ozone layer depletion, and natural resources, depletion of natural resources. One by one, we can see here that how the different issues are important while we are really involved in the infrastructure development projects. Infrastructure projects like dams, hydropower plants, these are adversely affecting the quality of habitat and the overall viability of the wildlife in general and endangered species in particular. Large dams transforms landscape and cause irreversible change in the environment. Uh, it has been observed uh, through various examples in the world that dams alter the natural process of ecosystem and changes water temperature and composition. The spills from wild platform kills marine creatures and pollutes the coastal ecosystem. The road constructed through the forest may badly impact the natural habitat of the flora and fauna. In terms of water resources, uh, the dam hydropower projects divert water from freshwater habitats, changes in water tables higher around the reservoir and lower downstreams. Construction of dams create risk of flood. The effluents of thermal power plants contaminate water resources. Construction of river bridges pollutes water and have serious impact on aquatic animals and humans. Nuclear accidents cause water contamination with radioactive substances. Oil spills in the sea causes severe water pollution, and movement of pollutants cause groundwater contamination. Apart from this, if you can see the impact of uh, environmental degradation on the land and how land is one of the major issues when we are really developing the infrastructure. One of the negative environmental effects on the land due to the construction activities and contamination of land at a time of disasters. Soil contamination with radioactive substances. Fukushima nuclear disaster has proved this. Uh, Apart from that, we have examples from other countries also in case of alteration of the tectonic activity. Vauclin Dam in France is one of the example. Frequent landslides, Clyde Dam, New Zealand, lead to land pollution. deforestation caused due to the construction of roads and dams, etc. India is one of the examples in the world which has lost an estimated 4,49,000 hectares of forest land to various river valley projects between 1950 to 1975. Hydroelectric projects can also cause soil erosion along the riverbed upstream as well as the downstream. One of the major challenges today is the global warming and raising the average temperature of the earth. It causes a rise in the sea levels which affects the marine life. The rising sea levels cause land erosion and harms the habitat of the animals. Global warming melts polar ice and leads to shrinking of the Arctic. Infrastructure projects like thermal power stations emits large number of heat and pollutants in the atmosphere and are responsible for global warming. Again, construction of roads, railways, airports, ports, etc. is also responsible for emission of greenhouse gases like methane and chlorofluorocarbons that deplete ozone layer and increase the temperature of the earth. Transport sector alone accounts for nearly 14% of the greenhouse gas emissions globally, and this shows that how uh, infrastructure development, we are adding more projects, infrastructure projects, but at the same time we are also adding more uh, global warming situations, and this is one of the major issue when we are going ahead with new infrastructure projects all over the world. We have to really consider the global warming as one of the issue. At the same time, we have to really consider the land and other ecological issues involved in the environment. And without taking care of such protections, it will be really difficult to survive a very eco-friendly infrastructure development projects. And if any country is not really in the position to sustain such development, that is not only going to challenge that particular economy, but that particular country, but that is also going to have the challenge for other countries of the world. Uh, the next one is the depletion of the natural resources. Uh, Depletion of the natural resources due to increased human activities such as intensive construction and infrastructure development is happening today. The extensive demand for construction materials for infrastructure projects uh, exerts huge pressure on the natural resources. We have seen that many dead rocks are now broken into the small stone chips, and that has really carried out from a different place to the construction areas, and it is just uh, uh, basically it is in the name of development and infrastructure projects. We are really taking advantage of those natural resources without considering uh, uh, the natural imbalances occurred due to such deforestation and demolition of the old rocks and other things. So unprecedented shortage of natural resources due to the finite supply of resources. Railroad construction is also one of the reason for deforestation, and excess deforestation leads to the uh, desertification in the country. Apart from that, we have experiences from Nepal, Canada, Brazil, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, where we can see that there are certain dams which has different effects, environmental effects. Kulekhani hydro projects in Nepal that cause suspended particles to settle that limited uh, the storage capacity and also check the flow of sediments downstream. Dams on Columbia River, Canada badly affected the migration of salmon along the river. Uh, Roshana Dam in Brazil disrupted the natural habitat of black lions tamarin. Kotmala Dam in Sri Lanka, excessive growth of weeds, and Shaguling Dam, Indonesia, low dissolved oxygen hampered the fisheries. These are some of the examples from different part of the world which can be which can be placed here as one of the effects of dam on the ecosystem or on the environment. One of the example one cannot miss here from the Chernobyl nuclear disaster which occurred in Ukraine on 26th April 1986. It was a result of the flawed reactor design operated by the personnel not adequately trained. Large amount of radioactive particles and fire released into the atmosphere, which has spread over to the western USSR and Europe. Radiation caused death of 2 plant workers on the night of the accident, and later 28 people died within a few weeks. The government evacuated about 1,15,000 people from the most heavily contaminated areas in 1986 and another 2,20,000 people in subsequent years. This is one of the major example which can be seen as a part of the environmental damage and the threat to the life of the people in a particular areas where such nuclear projects are uh, has been developed. Fukushima nuclear disaster, which occurred after that, after the Ukraine uh, problem, which occurred on 11th March 2011. It was the result of tsunami that disabled the power supply and cooling of 3 Fukushima reactors. No death or cases of radiation sickness were reported from the nuclear accident. However, more than 1 lakh people were evacuated. The disaster displayed that nuclear reactors are inherently dangerous. The Fukushima disaster caused the damage to the environment as large amount of radioactive elements released in the environment. Contaminated seawater and airborne contamination by permanent atmospheric motion. Solutions. What are the solutions to these environmental issues? Proper environmental impact assessment put in place when we are really developing the infrastructure projects, especially the roads, dams, flyovers, and nuclear plants, airports, and ports. Reusing or recycling materials, incorporation of energy saving features into infrastructure design, using local suppliers strengthens the local economy and reduces transportation emissions. Restoration or enhancement of wildlife habitats affected by infrastructure development, seismic resistance, design of structures, and building green infrastructure. These are some of the points which one can highlight here. One of the best example, one which can be cited here from Chile, which has a very uh, very uh, thoughtful contribution in terms of uh, uh, risk-free earthquake-prone constructions. That is one of the uh, one of the example for many countries to take. And uh, there are many natural disasters which really uh, increase the number of deaths, but the increase of the deaths is not really because of the natural disaster, but it is because of the poor construction of the infrastructure. And it is indeed important to take necessary actions while the infrastructure developments are being constructed. Uh, Local economy and uh, how to reduce the emission at local level. Even if that will be considered, we will really reduce the carbon emission at the global level. What are the benefits of green infrastructure, environmentally fit infrastructure? Because it reduces the surface turnoff, it controls the air temperature, it improves the quality of air, it protects the biodiversity, it provides the recreation space, and it reduces the carbon emissions. So these are some of the benefits of developing infrastructure with a proper care of the environment. One of the new term which is being used after the Kyoto Protocol in 1997 is the which has set the stage of carbon trading to reduce overall carbon dioxide emissions. It is an approach used to control CO2 emission by providing economic incentives to the countries. The amount of CO2 that can be emitted is limited by setting a cap on the emissions, and countries or other parties are issued permits. The allowed emissions are divided into assigned amount units. The total amount of allowance and credits cannot exceed the cap. It allows countries to purchase the right to release more CO2 into the atmosphere from countries that have lower emissions. The buyer therefore pays to pollute, while the seller is financially rewarded for reducing CO2 emissions. To sum up, we can really say that there is ample scope to mitigate environmental risk while meeting the increasing global demands for infrastructure. The right approach for infrastructure development can reduce the environmental issues. A systematic evaluation of the impact of a project is necessary in order to improve the quality of environment by reducing the negative effects and increasing the positive effects. Well designed, efficiently executed and carefully managed infrastructure projects have positive spillover effects that are environmentally sustainable. So, as we have discussed in past, that environmental infrastructure development is a very challenging task, and it's a long run task. And when it is a long run exercise, we cannot really avoid the environmental risk and the environmental issues today, which is considered as one of the serious issues for majority of the country in the world today. But still there are many steps which is underway, and that has to be progressed as soon as possible when we need the environment and when we really going ahead with more infrastructure projects. Thank you.